Welcome back to Fight News Now. Cody Saftik here, and we're now pleased to be joined on the line by former middleweight wrecking machine turned current light heavyweight wrecking machine. It's the professional predator, Brian Rogers. Brian, thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, Brian, so you're a proud Ohio boy. You've been rocking the Ohio versus the world mantra, so I have to ask you, are you spending much time these days training Ohio with Strong Style, or you've been really calling Factory X Muay Thai with Mark Montoya up in Colorado full-time during fight camps these days?
Yeah, I mean, I live in Denver, Colorado. I've been back a handful of times to Ohio. When I do go back, I always go train, at Strong Style. Those are my friends, people I consider family. But, I'm just proud of where I came from. You know what I mean? I'm wearing Ohio State sweatshirt as I'm sitting here talking to you today, and just love the state that I'm from and the culture. I feel like it's made me the person that you're speaking with and that I am today. So, and it's funny, Denver's full of Midwest transplants. During the football season, there's two different Ohio State alumni backer bars that I can go to and to watch. I'm not an Ohio State alumni myself, but I played football at a smaller school. But, I mean, there's a lot of Midwest people out here anyway. But, yeah, it's just kind of my thing, kind of my vibe. And, proud where I came from was kind of hard for me to leave Ohio, my friends, my family. But, I did it for just to further and better my professional MMA career.
And are you able to focus on just the fight camp when the time comes around? I know you've been working a lot actually out in kind of South Carolina. It kind of takes you on some trips various times around the year over there to train a little bit. And also back when you're in Ohio, when you have this 8-week camp that you're like, okay, I'm going to spend my time at Landau Performance, I'm going to spend my time at Factory X Muay Thai. Are you able to focus for the full 8 weeks and just stay there? Or are you kind of moving around different places?
I'm moving around just because I work for a company called 97 Display. 97 Display is the #1 martial arts and internet marketing and martial arts and fitness website company in the world. So I have a position with them where I work in sales. I do also do some operations and some event management stuff. And so the home base is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And when I'm there, I used to train at 8 Points Muay Thai with Chris Cloudfelter. Out there, and then last weekend I was in San Diego for a conference, and I went by Victory Martial Arts, home of a lot of top pros, but most notably Dean Lister, who gave my jiu-jitsu coach Jose Pugly his black belt, so I got an opportunity to work with Dean and get some roles and whatnot as well. So, I just make sure when I'm on the road that I have the opportunity to train and get some work in. But, I've had about 7 or 8 days of travel since late February altogether. So, it's kind of something that kind of comes with the job. I work from home, so I can't complain too much.
Now, as you mentioned, you've trained at different places over the years, and very high-level training at very high-level MMA gyms. So, but bringing you back to Factory X Muay Thai, what's the biggest difference that you're seeing out of them? I mean, traditionally, they've always had a good stable of fighters, guys like Neil Magny, guys like Joe Warren, guys like Brian Foster that are always having success. And now we're seeing this almost a resurgence out of them. Not a resurgence, but a second coming around where guys like Chris Camozzi have looked the best that he has in a long time, and you yourself also starting to peak a little bit. What is the biggest thing that you're finding with Mark Montoya up in Factory X that's making a destination? We even seen Dominic Steele, a former opponent of yours, turned friend over there training.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think Mark Montoya, this is a gym that really started with only 4 people, and I'm going to miss out on some of the original people. So there's, Chris Camozzi, his brother, Brian, Chase Hackett, and I believe my buddy Nick Macias. I believe those are the original 3 or 4 fighters. And, Mark's a guy who was a pretty high-level baseball player who got into boxing and Muay Thai as well, and just expanded his martial arts knowledge. And eventually became creative and developed the gym. He's been involved in martial arts or MMA since about 1998 or 1999 or so. And he's just really, in my opinion, he built one of the best gyms in the world out of what was effectively a shoebox. Originally, it was kind of their gym setup. And, Chris Velosi and I met on the Ultimate Fighter, or trying out for Ultimate Fighter season 7 or season 8, I don't remember which, in Vegas, and always stayed in contact, stayed friends. I'd come out there off and on. He had to come out to Ohio as well. So just eventually, when I was looking around, looking to make a move in my life and looking to move in my training and seemed like a good place, I always had a good rapport with Chris. I used to go spend a lot of time actually up in Montreal for TriStar. One time I was up there for about a month, and during that time it was the same card as St. Pierre and Diaz, and Nick Diaz, and also Chris fighting Nick Rook on that card. Actually ordered Chris that fight since I was up there already, and we had a working relationship. And it was kind of around that time where I started to think more and more about potentially making the move.
Now, April 16th, you're back in action at Bellator 152, and you'll be taking on UFC veteran Alessio Sakara. Now, this marks your 12th appearance for the promotion, and aside from a change in weight classes, what's the biggest difference between knockout machine Brian Rogers making his promotional debut at Bellator 50, as opposed to Brian Rogers now taking another shot at glory over 100 events later in almost 5 years?
Yeah, I think it stays a little bit to my staying power. I bring exciting fights. I've had some wins, I've had some losses, but I always say, do the right things and carry myself professionally, and that's why I'm still around. I've been given the benefit of the doubt, and I've come on top and given the opportunity where I needed to save my job, so to speak. So. I'm trying to keep on with that focus. I've seen big differences as my body and physique kind of changed. I played football at about 235 in college and worked my way down to middleweight. Eventually, that's what everyone was doing. But I still, at some point, I feel like it was having I was getting more just diminishing returns, for lack of a better word, just having diminishing returns with the weight cut. This wasn't as healthy and wasn't performing as well. So we decided to take that aspect out of it and allow me to train as efficiently as I had been during my training camps and things like that. And then hopefully now those performances that we've always seen in training camp will then transfer over more to the cage, having to have the longer weight cuts, cutting 20, 30 pounds in a week and things like that.
Now, when you're cutting all that weight prior to that, as you mentioned, you're somebody that, when you don't have a fight lined up, you can get up to as high as 220, 230 pounds. Now that you're fighting at 205, you don't have to make these drastic weight cuts. You're using George Lopez currently as your nutritionist, and in my opinion, one of the best guys in the game. How long have you been working with George? Was he helping you make middleweight, or is this someone you've only brought into your camp recently?
No, George's been with me since I started using George during my time actually spent when I was going up to TriStar off and on. I got connected with him through maybe Warriors. Somebody told me about him. Began reaching out then sometime during the trip. And so the first fight he helped me with was moving down to I want to say maybe versus Dominic Steele in October 2012. They had seen us some things in strength conditioning as well, so we kind of been working together ever since. Even in the process of going to 205, I definitely, consulted him, let him know my news, and adjusted my nutrition, food accordingly. You want to put on big shoes, put on good, functional, strong, good functional weight, not just bad weight. You want to be eating the right things to help your body develop.
And how much do you think that your body's going to be different this time around at light heavyweight as opposed to the last time? Now, when you took on Virgil Zwicker, you only had about 5 weeks to prepare for that fight. Now you're getting a full camp out of this. I know you had the press conference over in Italy, came back, helped Camozzi finish off his training camp for Joe Riggs, and you've had a good 8 weeks to prepare. That's allowed you to go to strength and conditioning at Landau Performances. That's allowed you to really start to fill out your frame. Do you expect fans to see a different Brian Rogers altogether, or are you kind of expecting the same results as the Zwicker fight?
I expect the same results as far as I expect to win, but, I think my body composition's changed and getting a little bit bigger and leaning out a little bit more, so I just think I'm going to continue to develop. I think it's going to take me about a year or so to really transform my body all the way to where and what I'd like it to be, but, still just developing into that 205 frame.
Now let's talk a little bit about your Bellator 152 opponent, Alessio Sakara. He's a former middleweight as well. He's very known for his technical boxing skills and his knockout power, as I'm sure you know. But this is kind of always the things that you've been good as well. You've always been a very strong guy. You're a very dynamic striker, and you're known for completely shutting off people's lights. I think for the fans' sake, they expect to just see, two good stand-up guys are going to stand in the middle, in the pocket, so to speak, and exchange punches. Is getting the knockout something that's really important to you, Brian, or is just continuing this current role you're on and making 2016 your comeback here the most important object here?
I think it's just about getting the win. I think I have a very good chance to knock him out. I'm definitely going to try to. But, he's training as well. So sometimes, that doesn't always go your way. They're able to survive and whatnot just because they're training and, it just doesn't always go your way. But I'm going to get the W no matter what. He's a dangerous guy. He can put anybody's lights out, but he's got to stay in the pocket with me, too. And that's going to be a problem for him because I think my jaw is going to hold up a heck of a lot better.
I would have to agree with that. And you actually campaigned for the Sakara fight. Prior to the Zwicker fight, you kind of mentioned it to Rich Chow and Mike Kogan, and then afterwards you were kind of like, you know what, I'd like to go to Italy and fight Sakara. Was it Sakara that you wanted to fight? Was it something about him and his style and his name that jumped up with you? Or was it more so than that, the opportunity to go to Italy and perform on an international market, an international stage?
A little bit of both. Remember the day it got announced, I was still at fight camp for Slicker. My jiu-jitsu coach was like, we have to get on this. So I was like, yeah, definitely. That's kind of the nice thing about being involved. And I feel like you get to see and experience the things that you may not otherwise have the opportunity to do. So, yeah, of course I wanted to be, have that opportunity and to get in there. And Sakara's a big name. He's a fan favorite, amongst most fight fans, you know what I mean, because of his style. And, he's got a distinguished, look as well. So, when you want to retire, you want to look back at your key, your signature wins, like he's a guy who you would have won on that list.
And for Alessio Sakara as well, do you think there's added pressure on him fighting in his own backyard? I mean, obviously the majority of your fights have been in America, not necessarily your own backyard, but people always talk about this hometown advantage. It seems like it'd be a lot more pressure on a fighter going in there with the expectation of, I can't let these people down. Is it kind of pressure off you and you get to go in there and play spoiler?
Yeah, not really think about it that way. But, I think about it as, I've said to someone previously, when I played football in college, I always enjoyed the road games a lot more. I like the opportunity. I envision it as a business trip, and I'm going in there to accomplish a task. We used to have a saying at Walsh University, our head football coach said, we're going to go in, we're going to kick ass, we're going to eat some burgers, and we're going to get out of there. We had McDonald's after every game. Eventually switched to Subway, but originally had McDonald's after every game, and so that was the mantra. We weren't here always just to hang out and party or anything like that. We were there to get a job done. So it was kind of task at hand, mission in hand type of thing for me, and I kind of like having my back against the wall, going into quote-unquote enemy territory. And I think it is a lot of pressure on him, not just because it's in Italy, but also because, he's coming off of a win, but I don't know if you watch that film, yeah. That guy was not the level of opponent that I am, and he's had some ups and downs, and, I'm failing to be the first real fight he's had in a little while.
Well, he's also been plagued by injuries, so it'd be interesting in how he decides to come out there. Now, final question for you. Bellator 152 actually just marks the second time in your entire career that you've competed professionally outside of North America. I remember seeing you up at Casino Rama over in Ontario, and you took out Adrian Miles in pretty spectacular fashion, needless to say. So it's not like leaving America affects your performances, so to speak. But is this something that you'd like to do more so in the future? We've seen MMA organizations expanding to different areas, Bellator now going to Italy, potentially looking into other markets. Are you okay with just taking in the offhand fight in a different country, or is Brian Rogers looking to, establish himself as a big star in more than one market?
Yeah, I just want to by Bellator's building its brand, I want to be one of those guys. When you think Bellator, you think of Brian Rogers. Bellator's supposed to go to Tel Aviv, London, and somewhere else that I just can't remember the schedule this year. And I'd love to be on all of those cards, most definitely, which is a part of the life and part of the journey, and like I said, a kind of a perk that comes with being a professional athlete. I'm going to spend some time in Italy after this fight, after the job's done, but, I'll take it's a business trip I'm getting paid for.
I know I said final question, but I got to fit one more in here. With Bellator starting up a professional kickboxing league, is that something that interests you in the slightest bit? If the right fight, if the right opportunity came along, you're obviously known for spectacular stand-up skills and a good ground game as well, but would you consider perhaps switching over to kickboxing for just one night if the offer was the proper one?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not going to turn down the check. I think I trained Justin Jacoby, who just got announced. He's fighting for the Glory Middleweight Championship in May now. Is one of my training partners. I got one of the best kickboxers in the world to train with. Additionally, Mark Montoya is a Muay Thai stylist, coach as well. So, I would feel good about that. I'm not barking at the door to do it, but, I'm not going to turn down the check either.
Okay, that's Brian, the professional predator Rogers. Always has been must-see TV, and you must see him back in action April 16th at Bellator 152. Brian, thanks for taking the time.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity.